Hello, I'm Sondra Baras, and we're back with our weekly Torah portion. This week's portion is Vaera, and that literally means "and I will appear," and it refers to God's conversation with Moses at the very beginning of this week's portion, when he continues his instruction to him and how he is to continue his mission in Egypt and his message to Pharaoh. I'd like to focus today's discussion on something that comes out of this portion and the next as well, as we begin to see God bringing the plagues on Egypt. Now, this week's portion, by the way, has 7 of the 10 plagues. The rest of the last three plagues we will see in next week's portion. But at the very beginning, when God first tells Moses what is going to happen and how he's going to begin the redemption of the people, take a look at Exodus 7, verse 3. He says, "And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and I will multiply the signs and wonders here in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh will not listen to you, and I will lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth my hosts, my people, the children of Israel, from out of the land of Egypt by great judgments." Now, this actually is a troubling idea. The fact that God is going to harden Pharaoh's heart, because we believe very strongly that man has free will. And if a man sins, it is because he has chosen to sin. And if a man does good, it is because he has chosen to do good. So how is it that God is already telling Moses at the very beginning that he is going to harden Pharaoh's heart? Now, let's take a look at exactly what happens. Does God indeed harden Pharaoh's heart, and when? So we have to go each plague and see how that plays out. So the first plague, of course, is the plague of blood. And that's in chapter 7, verse 22. And this is, of course, after the plague has struck. And what do we see in verse 22? And the engravers of the hieroglyphics, the magicians of Egypt, did the same with their secret arts, and Pharaoh hardened his heart and did not listen to them. So we see here in the first plague, in the plague of blood, that God did not harden Pharaoh's heart. He hardened his own heart. Let's see what happens in the next plague, in the plague of frogs. Chapter 8, verse 11. Here again, when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them as God had spoken. So again, we see in the plague of the frogs, it's a pattern, by the way. What happens here, that he brings the plagues, and Pharaoh calls to Moses, "Get them out of here, I can't bear it." Of course, Moses does this, God removes the plague, and then when he is supposed to fulfill his end of the bargain, and say, "Yes, I will send the people out of Israel," but as soon as the plague disappears, he forgets what his end of the bargain is, and he hardens his heart. Okay, now let's go on to the next plague, which is lice, and we'll look at chapter 8, verse 15.
To watch this program in its entirety, go to www.glc.us.com or simply click the link below.